Everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I apologize for any noises in the background. There has been construction and lawn mowing going on all day, so there's nothing I can do about that. I tried to wait it out, but the day is going on, so I'm going to go along with it. Today I'm going to do a review of Recipe for a Perfect Wife by Karma Brown. I read this a few months ago, and not a few months ago, like a month and a half ago, and was compelled to make a review about it. For a few minutes, this video is going to be spoiler free, and then I'm going to get into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled for this book, I will let you know when spoilers are about to come up for this book. So in this novel, we follow two women. One is named Nellie, who is in the 1950s, and the other one is named Alice, who lives in modern times in 2018. And we're following their stories. It's a dual perspective novel, so you get a chapter from Alice, then from Nellie, Alice, Nellie, Alice, Nellie, as the novel progresses. This book is also all about gender roles and expectations and standing up for yourself as a woman in both times as well, because Nellie lives in the 1950s, where it was traditional for women not to have jobs, to be homemakers, and although that's perfectly fine nowadays if you choose that career, that's what was expected of women back then. So she stayed home and she cooked, she cleaned, and she was a wife. That was her career. Alice, on the other hand, in 2018, she recently quit her job to become a housewife, essentially, because she and her husband Nathan are considering having a child in the not-so-distant future, so she wants to be able to focus on the house and on the baby should they have one. This book was well written, and I really enjoyed reading from both perspectives. Something interesting that isn't necessarily a spoiler, but something I found interesting as I kept reading, I really liked Nellie as a character, but I really disliked Alice, because without getting into spoilers, Alice does several things that she really shouldn't have done. I feel like one of the biggest themes in this book is communicate with your partner, because it's for Alice, things just spiral. If you're interested in picking up this book, I will put a warning on the forefront. There is a rape scene that happens in this book, and there is a lot of sexism due to the time that some of these chapters are written in, like they're, based in the 1950s. So there's sexism, and the rape scene isn't graphic, but it's still there. So I would just put a caution warning on that if you decide to pick this book up. With that being said, I am going to go forward into spoilers because I have a lot to say. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed Nellie's perspective, and I really didn't like Alice. That reason being, I really liked Nellie because I also felt a lot of sympathy for her. She's younger than me. She's 23 in the book, and she is a wife who is married to not such a great guy, she has no job, no money of her own, and she's trapped in this essentially loveless marriage. And as far as her husband Richard is concerned, all he wants from her is a baby. And they really struggle to get pregnant. She gets pregnant at one point and has an unfortunate miscarriage, which is difficult to read, and my heart just went out for her. I really enjoyed the development of Nellie's character. There were some things along her storyline that I did find not frustrating, but just like, why would you do that? Like, that makes no sense. Like, at the point where she pretends to be pregnant, and I'm like, what is the purpose of pretending to be pregnant at this point? Because you have limited options. One, you're going to have to reveal eventually that you are not pregnant to your partner. 2, you're going to have to fake a miscarriage, which is what she eventually does. She has a genuine miscarriage, and then she fakes a miscarriage later on. Or 3, you have to hope you get pregnant within that timeline so that your secret isn't revealed. So it's like, Nellie, why were you doing this? I don't understand. But something else I did like about Nellie was her agency that she had even in the 1950s. At the beginning of each of, I think it was Nellie's chapters or both of their chapters, I don't remember, there's a quote from like articles written in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, or, you know, books written in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that are just nowadays are outlandish to read. Like, I can't believe that people used to think like that. And then sometimes it'll be incorporated into Nellie's chapters, and she'll like have her own opinion about that and like be like, well, that doesn't seem right, and things like that. So I really liked her spunk, her agency that she had. Something that was really interesting is when she pretends that her mother is alive throughout the novel. So she pretends that her mother is ailing and has like Alzheimer's or dementia, when in fact her mother is dead and has been dead since the 1940s. So she's able to say to her awful husband, like, I'm gonna go visit my mom for the weekend. And he doesn't think anything of it, and he wishes her well, and off she goes. So it gives her a little bit of a rest, you know, from this horrible man that abuses her and manipulates her and rapes her. Because she is the character in this book that does get raped. If you, with Alice, is when I felt like there was that part where you needed to communicate with your partner theme came into the book, because she did a lot of things that I'm like, communicate with your husband. I would just get so frustrated with Alice because she would complain all the time and have things that she didn't like about her life and yet do nothing about it. She'd always talk about writing a book, and sit down and not write the book. And I get it. I'm a writer myself. Writer's block is a real thing. But I felt like she kept putting excuses in the way as the story went on, and she would also complain about things that Nate did in her narrative, and I'm like, talk to your husband. Oh my God. Really did enjoy the ending for Alice. However, I liked how she finally put her foot down, because she had, we find out that she didn't quit her job, but she got fired. However, she didn't have a job anymore, and her job was to take care of the house and write her book. And she put down her foot when Nate kept saying, oh, you know, I want a baby. And she's like, I'm not exactly ready for a baby just yet. I like how she finally like put a stop to everything that he was controlling. I did finally feel sympathy for Alice when she got pregnant, even though they were using protection, and she put her foot down and said to Nate, I am not moving across the country, because that really did piss me off, the fact that Nate was like, I got a job offer and we're moving across the country to California. So, communication 101, communicate with your partner and tell them if you're going to accept a job offer before you move across the entire country. I really like how firm she was when she said, look, I am not raising our baby in California. If you want the job so bad, you can go. I really like that she had that firmness with him, instead of him, instead of him like strong arming her into going to California, because I feel like as you read, Nate does kind of control things more and more and become a little bit more patronizing to the things that Alice is doing. And he doesn't, I don't think he even realizes it, because she's new to like being a housewife. Like, I hate that phrase, but anyway, she, like, her job has never been taking care of the house before. Before, they both had jobs, careers, ambitions, and she quit hers so that she could essentially in the future raise a baby and write a book. And Nate was really, sometimes he'd be like, oh, you did this, but you didn't do that. Or like, why didn't you do this chore this way? And it really made me dislike him. But I'm really glad I'm really glad for the ending that Alice got. The thing that made me give this book 3 stars to begin with was the fact that I was expecting this ending to have a little bit more, I don't really know how to describe it other than a little bit more oomph. Like, so we're getting dual perspectives, right? So I was thinking along the lines of Alice finds all those letters from Nellie to her mother, right? So I was expecting something like she reads the letters and then gets inspired, and the Nellie chapters that we're reading happen to be the book that Alice was writing, or something along those lines. I felt like the ending in both perspectives was kind of anticlimactic, because throughout all of Nellie's chapters we were getting the sense that she was trying to poison Richard, and she ends up finally doing it with the foxglove because she's just so trapped. She has no other way, and he has gone so far as to rape her to get a child, and she realizes that she cannot live with this man anymore. So like we get that for Nellie, but I just, when it all wraps up and ends with Alice, I was just hoping for a little bit more than what we got. One other thing I really liked about this book was at the beginning of each chapter there were quotes from articles that were written in the 20s, 30s, 40s, that just outline like the social and like the social atmosphere at that time. And so I wanted to read a few because they were quite interesting, to say the least. This is at the beginning of chapter 17. Don't keep your sweetest smiles and your best manners for outsiders. Let your husband come first. This is from Blanche Ebbott, Don'ts for Wives, published in 1913. This is at the beginning of chapter 21. Don't expect your husband to make you happy while you are simply a passive agent. Do your best to make him happy, and you will find happiness yourself. Blanche Ebbott, Don't for Wives, published in 1913. This last one is at the beginning of chapter 25. From the wedding day, the young matron should shape her life to the probable and desired contingency of conception and maternity. Otherwise, she has no right or title to wifehood. Emma Frances Angel Drake, What a Young Wife Ought to Know, published in 1902. So yes, that was Recipe for a Perfect Wife by Karma Brown. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.